Alrighty. Still just sort of getting set up here. There's good news and there's not so good. There's no bad news. There's just delays, but that's
Okay.
part of the fucking
Well,
course.
averages to reasonable news, I guess.
Just another fucking day. Alright, so man, I really gotta stop swearing when I talk. Alright, we are good to go. I'm about to do that classic annoying programmer thing where I got something super cool for you, but it's not what you asked.
Oh, I know that so well.
I know. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So what sort of a couple of weeks back, I said to you that the unit of resilience should always be as small as possible, and it should be just a computer with some network because that's ultimately all you got. I don't know why nature boils down to just some compute, some memory, and some network. But that's how the three dimensions of computing go. That should be the reliability unit, nothing
Yeah,
else.
yeah. And actually, if you really wanted to push that to the extreme, you could go inside the tin and say, actually, the unit of reliability is, a CPU and a bus to its RAM.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
I think when you start trying to do fancy shit like have lockstep CPUs or redundant RAM or actually redundant hard drives, I think that that's actually where things get nasty. Now,
That's
redundant
complexity.
redundant physical disks, yeah, maybe because the disk went down so often, but now that it's all solid state, I'd argue that the resilience or the reliability of any given system is around about the same, and I would argue that the most unreliable piece is the power supply. So, or the fans, the cooling. Um, so,
Classic.
keeping that in mind, it's been bothering me a lot that because many of the ways that I had made the blob store work, whilst I was striving for simplicity, so like I managed to remove the need for a transactional database by making the what I started calling the soul branch, but moved on to call it artifact consensus. That meta branch that manages each repo, and so now I can get all the transaction capabilities that a database needs down to just one single write, which is the pointer to the latest commit. So I don't need any transaction management or anything like that because that's always a real nightmare in DBs. But Git is basically that, where you can do whatever you want, and then only at the point of merge or push does it matter about contention. And so on we went anyway. And what I'd realized is that the project of the CRM, because it was always such a really niggly, high pressure thing, I had made those design choices almost subconsciously to be able to get a reliable system working quickly. But along the way, I'd fallen prey to our old enemy, complexity, but also this odd sort of a mental fallacy that I think all computer people have, which is that because a single computer can die, you have to say that it can, and then that gets the chances of that happening in real life are small enough that there's probably some other shit that's going to take you offline other than a computer dying. But
Well,
because it's
there's a number for it, NTPF. So it's measurable at any component level.
right, but it sort of isn't measurable as well because it's like there's an expected MTBF, and then there's the what you experienced, which doesn't relate. Like MTBF is where you control all the conditions, but the actual property you're looking for is how likely will I be out of control of
Oh,
my.
it's yeah. You can't predict for sure whether a component is going to fail. What you can say
No.
is here's distribution curve of likelihood.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And so you can then do some math to add them up and all that, and then you've got like, well, what about Steve? Steve's in the server room, and he got up late and tripped over a cable or whatever. Or I had a buddy of mine tell me a story. He They just finished rolling out this. I think it was like a redundant data center where like two sides had independent power rails coming in, and then my buddy walked out the door and tripped over the cable that plugged the main power into one side of the racks. And then you're like, well, MTB what? Like, and so, like, my point is, way back in the day when I first saw Bitcoin, that was the property I wanted to extract. It was these tiny little self-contained nodes that were just outperforming these gargantuan behemoths of machines in terms of reliability. And I don't think I gave enough credence to I didn't study enough why. I just looked at it and was like, great, grab it. But actually the why is because the unit of resiliency in Bitcoin is the same as the actual real unit of resiliency, which is the computer. And I think that there's some other factors at play, like cost, because like redundant power supplies and then lockstep CPU, people don't really do that. Redundant NICs, all that has this extra cost. But if your application works on a single shitty computer, then you could argue that for the price of one heavy beefy server, which still can go offline for a myriad of reasons, you could buy like 10 little crappy ones and their uptime will be superior to that big server, I think.
Um. Hmm. Okay. We're wandering into something I spent 10 years of my life around, which is resilient data
Dude,
centers.
I spent more
So
time, but yeah.
yeah. No.
this
No.
is
No.
the this is
I'm
actually the
saying.
heart of it, right? Like this is why
Yeah.
we went blockchain. You and I both were like, there's this itch, this problem that we can't fix, that for our whole lives resilience has kept us up at night, kept us scratching our heads, had us longing for better this, better that. There is no way to make 100% reliable component, and yet,
Right. Right. And
right?
there's the part of the calculus that is often left out is what's the cost of downtime? Does it really matter? And
Well,
the second thing is what's the cost of restoration?
yeah, so there's like a lot of different parameters there, like and what's your restoration uh return point objective, return time objective, like all those
Exactly.
kinds of
Yep.
measurements, right?
Yep.
And I
Yep.
say that your return time objective should be 0. Your return point objective should be real time now.
Which is why you end up with dual redundant, up the yin yang,
Up the
and
yin
that's what.
yang, right? And
Yeah.
and yet really the beautiful thing about Bitcoin at the start, back in 2009, was the resiliency that came from having, like, it wasn't dual redundant, it was whatever the Latin word for 3,000 nodes is redundant. It was like
Hmm.
dodecanohedron for Google dundant.
Lots and redundant. Yeah.
Lots of dundant. And then like totally dundant. Like you could look at that and you didn't need to pull out your math calculator. You were just like, oh yeah, no, that's not
Yeah.
going offline. Like that's
The thing being, of course, that the calculus there was we don't mind redoing a whole bunch of operations that have been done n times elsewhere because we know it's never going to go down. That's so it's like the most robust system you could imagine at the time, and we don't care that we're basically doing the same thing again and again, thousands of
Yeah,
times.
so the waste there was not aiming to be efficient,
Yeah.
but then if you also took into account that a redundant server system or multiple data centers, like they too are wasting resources and doing things twice, except a lot of times it's sort of cold, like it's still waste. Is
Yes,
Yeah.
but the centralized waste is worse than decentralized waste.
Well, yeah, but there is an optimum in there. Like there's like intelligent decentralized waste for the sake of redundancy that's just enough, and to your point, dialed to like how much do you care and how much do you not. That's actually what the computing fabric of the world needs to be. And that's really what I set out to chase all those years ago, and still am chasing, because it turns out it's not as straightforward as it may appear. But long story short, I have recognized that I had gone astray in that search because of the pressures of getting a reliable single party app up. And I have a solution for it, which I would like to detail now.
Okay, okay, this is kind of cool. All right.
Yeah, it's about
What's the
time we did
solution?
something kind of cool, right? But I just want to call out here. So I love Fly. I think that Fly is a great computing model, but despite that, they too have this same, like, this is basically the superstition of the IT world. Your app is
Mm-hmm.
running on a single machine. It might die.
Someone
Make
might kill it.
sure,
Yeah.
right? This is basically a message straight from the devil, because you damn well know that as soon as I online two machines, I'm like, how are they gonna
Mm-hmm.
communicate under duress? How do I know that one's primary? When is quorum? What happens if the net splits and they're both quorum? Like, from that one little statement comes all the ills of mankind and his quest for reliable computing, right? Like,
There's a great analogy for this, which is there's been a number of air crashes of dual engine aircraft
right,
where one engine has gone down, and that requires the pilots to take that engine off that has gone down, and
right.
they've turned off the good one.
Oh my
So
god,
it's the complexity of what do you do if you've got dual redundant, could quite happily fly on one engine
right.
and land on one engine,
But you
but
just,
the
oh my
complexity
god,
of it
you
is
killed the
that you
wrong
switched off the wrong
engine.
one. Yeah.
That sounds like you shouldn't fly a plane anymore. Like,
It's still there is a real problem.
yeah, right.
But
So what I'm sorry. This is sort of a long-winded way to justify how I spent not that long today, actually, maybe a couple of hours, but I poked at it. No, not even that, actually. It's probably like an hour and a half total, because this is so fundamental to what we're trying to do. Like, to get to Dark Edge, I think that Dark Edge is one of our rallying cries. Like, ambient attribution is like, yeah, we got to have that, but we sort of, independent of that, we got to have Dark Edge. I don't know how we ended up chasing both these things at once, or why they seem so closely related, but any progress in any area, I think, is a good thing. So I love the Fly.io model, because they give you these machines and they're like, these are bonded to the hardware. If the hardware goes down, the machine goes down. They also sell you or an add-on called volumes, where a volume is a piece of an SSD disk, but again, it's not network attached. It's on the actual hardware that's running your machine, and if that hardware goes down, your disk goes down. And I, for one, actually think it's beautiful to be given raw hardware, because now there's nothing in the way. And they make it nice. Like they do really cool things like auto expand it. Like if you can set a limit, so when you're at 80% capacity, it just adds another gig and then adds another gig and just keeps on going like that. And you're like, that's kind of how I'd love an SSD to be, but whatever. So where am I going with all this? I realized that because of how Git is, because I was trying to make the CRM reliable, I had this Tigris S3 bucket, right, which was this big whopping, I don't know what the fuck goes on in there. It's caused me some headaches, some performance issues, all that. But I was like, well, once it's in there, it's reliable. And then comes other problems, like, okay, if, say there's like 5 different clients wanting to read what the latest commit is, there's no notification system from the bucket. I have to poll it from all 5 locations because it might change. So that's annoying. Number 2 is when I go to write to it, maybe another node tried to write to it too. How can I decide? And so there's these rules creeping in that are like, if the unit of resilience is the computer, then the unit of synchrony should be the computer too, because you can absolutely 100% guarantee that your lock is 100% valid inside that unit. And you can guarantee that your subscription or your updates, like your change notifications on something that happened in that computer, 100%, right? And so what, I don't know a nice way to say what I'm saying. I'm just trying to jab at it. I think the best model is that I attach, I don't have a database, I don't have a S3 bucket, I don't have anything. I have one of these volumes attached to a machine, and that machine is assigned a repo, and the machines can sort of talk amongst themselves to figure out who's going to hold this repo and that repo, and it's very easy to move a repo, so long as that the motion of a repo is easy, trivial, it's just every day, then the machines then coordinate with each other to run a given repo in consensus, where each machine has this SSD that, yeah, it might die, but the machine might also die, but it's also like server grade hardware in a stable data center. And if you've got these repos that are, say you've got your repo where the replication factor is 3 and you spread it all around the world, one in Sao Paulo, one in Sydney, and one in Frankfurt. Like, what are the chances that that repo is going to go offline?
It's going to be inside the box. The only way all 3 would fail is if there's something happening inside the box, because the replication algo or however it's done, it's not going to be external factors. It's not going to be a power outage. It's not going to be a network attack.
No.
It's going to be inside the box.
That's right. And then, like, what it means is, as a client, if we get the client to do a little bit more work, like for the client to be like, okay, I need to know what the latest commit is. All right, I've used the directory service and I figured out that these 3 machines are the ones that are running this repo. So then the client connects to all 3 of them, which is not a big overhead. It gives it redundant pathing and all that. And so the client now works with all of these machines. And then if one of them goes down because the network path from the client to that machine, or the network path internally between any of the machines goes down, the client still got a live quorum-based result. And the client now has this like 0, like a fault occurred. The return point is 0. There was no loss. There was no downtime.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And
yep.
so
although you can't reach quorum with 2, you can only say yes or no with 2. It's like, do they agree or do they not agree?
You can reach quorum with 2 out of 3. Like if there's
Um,
three and you're like, I've only got two.
sure, but if number three goes off grid,
Yeah,
and then you're only asking the other two, it's
yeah,
like if they disagree, you don't know.
yeah. If they disagree, you're dead. But most of the time, see, this is again like the the ills or the devil of IT is like the chances that both of them disagree are also actually in everyday
Well,
life pretty small.
I hear what you're saying, and here's an interesting thing about graceful failure.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're dealing with AIs, um, it might be okay that a certain repo is like, we've got these guys disagreeing because you could have an AI step in there and do a good guess and report back saying, hey, we've got one of these, no, well, maybe just log it.
Yeah.
One of these things are down. We've got two different repos. They're only slightly different. It doesn't really impact on what you're
Possibly,
doing.
possibly, but I mean, further, just by the nature of Git, you could at some later date heal and like get them
Right.
to reconcile anyway. And
Well,
so,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
um,
So you could go back and recheck and
yeah.
go,
So what I'm trying to
this
get at
answers.
is that like this standard computing unit of fallible yet high performance RAM, storage, compute, and network that has an application aware consensus mechanism, like synchronizing between Git, where they're all like, yeah, we all agree. I think that's vastly superior to any other model I know of for managing the computing. Like, that's a reliable system out of unreliable components, and it just so happens that it's like the highest performance thing that you're going to get too, because it's direct hardware access.
I think so, but I'm going to press on the idea of graceful degradation in the face of AI. Because you could have, say, you got your three nodes distributed as you described. One node goes dark.
Yeah,
Two
I think
nodes.
I actually have a big section on that coming up where I can
Okay.
give
All right.
you a much expanded view on that I think will
Yep.
delight you, or I hope. And if we can punt this one out to there, then
Yeah.
I can
Cool.
close this one out, because this is mechanical. Because when you're using an S3 bucket, you're dealing with mechanical issues, like, and so the last point I want to make about this architecture is that it immediately lends itself to everyday computers on the battlefield, in your home, or anything like that. Because yes, you can run a FlyIO thing, but you can also run it on your local computer. You can also run it on your cell phone. It's now back to that kind of model, which is sort of what Dark Edge is all about. And if I can run our primary stuff on Fly.io in this fashion, then we're like that much closer to Dark Edge. Plus, I get a way simpler ride in terms of development, and the performance is superior, and the reliability is better, because the odd errors that occur with the bucket providers, of which I've seen a couple, like these odd errors that come with nicely packaged, expensive black box services, those errors aren't there.
I agree. It's very similar to what the original intent for the internet was, which was to survive a nuclear attack. And the equivalent of Dark Edge is, at some point, a percentage of nodes will simply run out of battery because you haven't charged it
So,
or you've switched off
yeah,
or
a
it's been
nicer way to
destroyed.
say that is that the original internet was designed to maintain communication links in the event of widespread sudden outage.
Yeah.
The goal that I think you and I always shared for blockchain, or Dark Edge blockchain in particular, was to keep the computing online in the face of large,
Right, which
unexpected.
the internet never actually did.
The internet never did that, and ills sprung up from it, because now the servers became the choke point, the money gateway, the way to hold people hostage, the way to overcomplicate things, the way to sell hardware, it became bad.
Yeah, and the evidence is there. When was the last time all of the internet went down? It just doesn't. Sections, sure, but
Yeah,
the
the
internet does not
comms,
go down.
well, the comms have never gone down, but major data centers have gone down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that comes back to your point about, any kind of centralized piece.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
high
yeah, yeah,
complexity.
yeah. And like if you were planning a war, you would probably pop the data centers pretty early on in the game, and you'd do it by popping the power supply nearby. Like you'd bust the dam, hit the nuclear reactor,
Yeah, yeah.
right? You'd hit the power plants, and you're like,
Because data
now
centers are
you're
big
offline.
targets.
Yeah,
They're
they're
big
big
targets.
and they're expensive. It's like, haha, I just broke your half a trillion dollar data center. You're like, oh man,
Yeah.
that's
And you'll get it
irritating.
back up and running in 5 years' time.
That's
So
right.
good luck.
Right, right. So this architectural shift, like I actually think that I can move us there now because uh I found a database that I hadn't heard of before, and you can call me an idiot if you've heard of it. Not to be rude, but I thought I'd heard of all the databases out there. Um, this one pretty popular with its 2.8 million downloads. Plus, it's not even JavaScript native. Like it's actually a C database.
Uh-huh.
And this is it. So you've heard of LevelDB, Redis,
Yeah,
SQLite, right? So
yeah.
these are the read and write performances of these databases versus this database,
Okay.
which is kind of smoking. And again, one of the ways it does what it does is it says, well, RAM's kind of, we should trust RAM. And so yes, it writes to disk, but it relies on RAM in a way that most databases, I think for historical reasons, databases have distrusted RAM.
Mm-hmm.
But this sort of says, well, fuck, I mean, you got your RAM, like, let's just use it. And so in the design I just explained with having multiple nodes, it kind of doesn't matter if they all just said, yep, I got that in RAM, and then a few hundred milliseconds later said, okay, now I've got it on disk. Like, I got it in RAM is between, like, 5 independent machines in different continents. If they got it in RAM and said, yeah, I got it, it's probably good.
Yeah. I agree.
And like, what that means is that our performance and our cost, the performance goes up, the cost goes down. But the reason why I needed to use this database for it, and like, do please stop me if you're like, I got it, this is too much detail. But the reason why I wanted this is because, first of all, it's got the rare property of being crash consistent, whereby whatever's on disk, if I grab a copy of that, that's a valid backup that will just straight up work as soon as I fire up the database again. You can't say that about most other databases. So, very fast, crash consistent on disk. But the issue with having like that mode that I described, where each repo is stored on disk directly, is that if a particular machine is asked to handle many different repos, and the repos are quite busy, you get a lot of really small objects, which can rather choke the disk because you're asking for a lot of IOPS from like tiny little bits,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can
Mm-hmm.
get not great performance. I think it'd still be okay, but not great. However, this system excels at just taking big numbers of random little objects and just going splat down on the disk in one contiguous chunk. And so
Mm.
it's kind of perfect for the right patterns of Git, which Git very rarely deletes anything, like hardly ever, but it often writes a lot of very small things. And so effectively, when I showed you this volume, the way that it's gonna be in this design is that volume will have just one single file, which is the LMDB file. I lie, actually, two files. The lock file that indicates the DB is in use, and the database file, which will be encrypted on disk, which means we can turn off the inbuilt encryption on the volumes because we don't need it. It's just a performance drag. And so now our system is like, if you can run a Docker image or the native code, if it's, in Deno or whatever languages we end up in, and you can give us disk access to put our one file down that's crash consistent and encrypted, then you can run a node. And you can share arbitrarily many repos and run them and host them and then coordinate with others to provide consensus for the state of the repo. And now you've got this very reliable thing that works when you go offline, that can figure out the differences between, a loss of quorum or a fork is not actually irreparable. Like, I've dealt with quorum-based systems in the past, and if they deviate from quorum, like, you're calling someone. Like, it's a...
Yeah, it's split brain. It's a real pain in the arse.
Whereas, like, Git is made for that. You can also have individual chunks of the DB fail, and then you can, like, recover the Git piece that it represented. Like, there's a lot of all that stuff's kind of detailed. What I was sort of excited about is that I can see how we can make a very simple computing model that's simple to code, very high performance. The only gotcha is we need to implement consensus early, but I think that we can just run for our experiments. We can just run on a single machine and rely on that and the backups that it takes automatically because of what Fly does, and then we're sort of good.
Yeah, or even at that base level 3, because then you're starting to explore, turn 3 nodes, you, me, and Ben, say,
something like that. But
and one of us switches the power off at the end of the day, and it continues. It should continue.
Right. So this design brings us remarkably closer to Dark Edge, but you can also, because each Git database is so just maniacally portable, we can move a user's database to be closest to them. So if you fire up in the UK, then we can be like, oh, you were in Zimbabwe before, and then we can move the node we can move the database over to be close to you, so that you don't have to have this issue with centralized databases where it's like,
oh, that's nice,
right? So it follows you around.
That's nice. So if I understood this, if you've got n nodes and you get below the level you're comfortable with, depending on what your personal uptime requires, some of those nodes go down. You could just spin up other nodes based on the quorum of the existing ones, and then recreate the same kind of robustness.
Yeah, just fire them up.
Yeah, you just fire them up in a few seconds, and then
and then
that's really,
and like migration is just firing up a new node. Say it's like closer to you, like the latency. Firing up a new node, it syncs, which is like pretty quick because turns out Git heavily optimized the time it takes to do a pull, so that's very efficient. And then now it's now part of Quorum, and then you shut down one of the other ones, and now you're still in Quorum. You remained in Quorum the whole time, and you very rapidly spun up a new node right by your house that gives you like as fast a lower latency for reads and stuff as you're ever going to get.
That's quite an idea you've got there, sir.
That I think that is
nice.
Actually, that is how I wanted Interbit to be. Like that's the Dark Edge.
Reminds me a lot of when we're saying push everything, to IoT Edge, Dark Edge.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of War Fabric.
That is War Fabric, and it's if we can make the same unit, it runs perfectly fine in a high-grade hosting environment like Fly.io as it does running on crappy computers out in the backyard or in the battlefield. and
Right.
you can dial it up, dial it down, whatever.
Right. There's a lot of emphasis on consensus there, though, isn't there?
Yes, but I do believe that we shouldn't shy away from consensus. I feel consensus is very quick. Today, for example, I implemented that. Well, when I say Codex implemented that LMDB thing into Artifact right now. So it's in there.
Okay.
And then all we need for consensus is like a couple, a way to message around. And because of the years I spent dicking around with the IPFS underlying protocol and other such fancy data structures like DHTs and all that, I actually don't think consensus is it's not a big deal. I know that sounds rude, but given the tools we have and given how everything we have has been designed to get towards it, I actually think we could have consensus this year because it feels under this model it's relatively easy. Under the old models, that it was like I don't know, we're gonna have to wait till we get there. But under this model, I can 100% see how consensus can work.
What we're losing by, because previously it's like, let's go for the cloud services providers. It's a
Yeah,
different model. What are we losing?
I think we're losing an illusion. They present an illusion that says that your data is 9.99.99 blah blah blah, like I ran out of nines, kind of reliable. And then I'm like, prove it. But they're like, trust us. Or
Yeah, well, and usually there's no teeth in the contract about whether they're lied or not.
yeah. And so I am hesitant to say it, but I think there's nothing but gains.
It has an interesting side effect, which is data sovereignty, because you can state where your
You can
code is
you
going to be.
can 100% state where the hard drive is. You're like, where's the
And
hard
if you
drive?
want,
I'm
you can
touching
go
it.
and
My
find it.
little
And
finger, it's touching the hard
yep,
drive. It's
you can
in there.
hit it with a hammer if you want. Yeah.
That's right. Right. But with a cloud service, I don't know.
You know, this is so good for East Africa. This is what every call I've had with East African guys, they're all calling out saying we don't want to put it in the cloud
This is
because
anti-cloud. This is
yeah,
anti-cloud. This is dark edge.
yeah,
So I think what I'm hearing is that I feel like I've got my design points across to you, and it
yeah.
sounds like it maybe is a better. You think it's a better thing than I thought you were going to think it was when I came to you with it. It sounds like this is the path. Like this is how we got to be.
I agree with the even the traditional compute loads. I think this is a great way of doing it
Right.
with data sovereignty. And you're absolutely right. I mean, what is the MTBF on an SSD? It's like
2 million hours.
freaking, yeah. And then RAM is even
Same.
better.
2 million. It all sort of hits on 2 million, and
Yeah.
you're like, well, it's not
The
2 million because I've seen them die. So
well the in any kind of unit or a server, the anything moving is going to be the thing that fucks you up.
yeah.
The second thing is anything that powers the system. It's not going to be the individual components. It's not going to be the RAM. It's not going to be the SSD.
Nah, so things that are moving might surprise you. I mean, the power supplies are moving, like,
Yeah.
but not the fans, the coils.
Yeah, they're pulsing.
And they move a lot. So
They generate heat, and
yeah,
if that heat's not dissipated, then the fuses blow, and you've got an outage.
yeah. And so I'm sort of saying, well, fuck all that. It's better to just have multiple nodes and consensus than it is to have anything below the application layer trying to act like it makes it more reliable for you.
Right. Can I drill down to something you said
Sure.
roughly 10 minutes ago, which was it's at the repo level. So a repo is stored on say 3 nodes.
Yep.
But if you want to interact with multiple repos,
Yep.
how does that work? So
You can still interact with them, but the smallest unit of storage is the repo. So the implications of that are, if your repo gets too big, we're gonna have a problem. Like too big for one node.
well,
it's
that's a sharding problem, really. You shouldn't
uh
have big repos,
it's
really.
right. That's really the problem. It's like, why have you got a big repo?
That's a
And
design problem.
we
Yeah.
can also eject out big binaries into an LFS style storage, which treats the big binaries like their own, like a repo unto themselves. So
Well, yeah, exactly. If repo
yeah,
gets to a certain size, it's like, no, you're gonna have to like
eject
cut
out the
this.
binaries or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but more to the point, it's like, why are you doing that? And I think I need to be quite honest about putting some limits in place, because if we try and be like useful in all scenarios, it's kind of too hard. It might be impossible. But the main thing is, the majority of developers, like GitHub's limit on repos is reasonably tight-assed. And so everyone's made do with that. So
Well, it's because it's text based. As soon as you start pulling in, raw video, and
right.
that sort of thing.
But if raw video is just treated as LFS or large file storage, which doesn't count towards your repo size, then what's
Well,
left?
here's not not a counter argument, a pro argument,
Mm.
backing up what you said. You should never be working with raw data with natural language. You should always get it transcribed or some kind of pre-processing step into text.
Yeah. But
If you're
even
dealing with raw
no,
video,
actually, I disagree,
okay,
because there are LLMs coming that will be able to process raw video, and so you very much might want to deal in raw video.
yeah, but it's just sure. I mean, you can get sloppy with it in the same way as we've all got sloppy with storage because back when best you could get was like
Yeah, what are you trying to push against
um
with the binary thing? Like,
what I'm saying is I think we can reasonably honor the GitHub limitations because GitHub largely deals with text, which is obviously very small, and we can deal with digital or very large files separately without
yep, LFS.
compromising.
Yeah,
Without compromising the architecture.
yeah, I think it's good. And until we see resounding places where there's problems, it's good enough, it works, and it feels a lot like shooting the eye of a needle to get a dark edge chain up anyway. If we're sort of come with some limitations, I think that's perfectly fine. But I feel like we've seen the definitions of like what a computer is and what a node is and what it should do in this dark edge system and all that's starting to really become apparent.
Yeah, I agree. Now,
Okay.
sorry, you're about to move to something else. I've got,
Yep.
I've stacked one question
Sure.
at the moment, but
Yep.
I can leave that.
You
Can I
can.
do it?
Yep. Go.
Okay, I mentioned that the lovely thing about AI is you can deal with uncertainty.
Yeah, that one. I'll move on to that one if that's okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
All right. So, this part I'm pretty excited about. So far, it's been basically MCP, all the things.
Yeah, I had a little snoot around this, but I
Right.
haven't
So
posted it all there.
this is basically what Fly have done is pretty nice actually. They've gone and made every single thing that you can do on their hosting platform. They've defined it in a schema-based API,
Hmm.
which means that we can turn that into the NAP interface, which means that it can look like an MCP to an LLM,
Yep.
which means that we can make an LLM system that can manage the state of the infrastructure based on English rules or natural language rules. And
Yeah, yeah.
what's more, we can make this NAP that represents the API of the platform can have a play mode where you can snapshot the current config in the real hardware and then go into virtual mode where the machine attempts to do different things and the model sort of calculates what would happen, and then the LLM ponders whether that was what it wanted, so that by the time it's ready to actually push the button, it's got a pretty good idea of what it wants to do. And now what that does for us is it excuses some of these hideous, hard coding jobs like, how should I measure pressure? When the computing pressure is high, should I spin up more nodes? What happens if a node coming online takes too long? What if it took too long, I started some others, and then the ones I started that were slow came online too? What do I do now? Like, those are LLM-able because you kind of want to make just good sense judgments that are steering towards some overall goals, but you don't know how to code for every fucking, everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Oh, yes, yes. Now
now we're talking, right?
you're talking honey now.
Now we're
Um,
talking.
you could also apply exactly the same model for even voting logic on the number of nodes, about how sure you are that there is consensus. So even when there's not consensus for whatever reason,
Yep.
um, you can give the LLM will pick that up and saying, I usually talk to 5 nodes and I'm down
Yeah.
to 2, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just going to be a bit wary about this.
That's right, because it'll be theorizing. It's like, what else could have happened? Well, based on my training and based on the scenarios that I've been shown, nodes offline could mean we're under attack, could mean the network's down, could mean blah, 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 blah. So here's my.
But this feeds into the work we're doing on the OSINT, because OSINT is never black and white. It's never consensus.
Yeah, it's
There's
the same thing. It's the same thing. It's like a fuzzy probabilistic type of a decision maker,
right,
right? And then it's
all
got a
all you
few.
can ever aim for is good enough. It's like, is that
Yeah,
good enough to make a
yeah,
decision?
yeah. And so because we can run our chains on this infrastructure or spread, now that when we have consensus, that immediately gives us multi-host, kind of like off the bat, because it's like, I was scared of that feature. I knew we needed it, but I didn't quite know how the fuck it would work. Like, how would you make a repo shared by multiple hosts? Because if they're all running these S3 buckets and they got these big pools of computers, it's like, oh, that's complicated. But actually, if they're just running like the same uniform little nodes, it's trivial. You're just adding a new node that's under the control of this hoster into the quorum, and you're all sort of sitting there agreeing or not agreeing, and then when you don't agree, the LLMs come in to try and sort it out. Like, it's wild, actually. But where I was getting to with that is that you can run a chain / repo on the Fly.io infrastructure that also, it spans multiple data centers for resiliency, but it also monitors the hardware that it runs upon and makes tweaks and decisions to modify the hardware that it's sitting upon for optimality.
So you got a piece of tin that you're running on one node and it's starting to struggle, and so let's shift it to another node because everything's shiftable. No worries.
Yes and no. What I was getting at was that the top level, the knock repo can be running on this infrastructure and also controlling the infrastructure, where some of that infrastructure will affect it.
No, I didn't understand that. Start with knock. I'm not sure I have the right definition.
The Network Operations Center
Oh,
is
NOC. Yeah, yeah. Okay, got you. So say the rest again.
so the knock. If we replace the humans with an LLM running on one of our repos, where the repo is distributed around the world in consensus, that's the thing that monitors the Fly.io platform, but it's also running on the Fly.io platform, and it makes decisions when to spin up new machines or shut down machines or power cycle or perform a backup or do whatever. But it's also running on that very same hardware, so it knows that if it shuts part of its own self down, it's going to need to bring up some other hardware somewhere else so it doesn't go offline.
But a bit like a process management system.
Yeah,
But
but
running on the
what's
same
cool?
hardware.
Well, yeah, but it sort of seems cool because it's like controlling itself. It's the chain is making decisions about the hardware that runs it.
There's a lot of cool things that emerge from this, isn't there?
It's back to
Um,
basics, man. Like, and that's the cool thing. That's the thing we were always chasing at Interbit.
yes, this is the intent of Interbit. A completely different approach, mind you.
Yeah,
Um, but this is what the
yeah.
intent was
And so
all of
this thing, once we turn this into an app, this is hyperconvergence.
Yeah, you can't turn it off.
You can't turn it off. It can manage its own hardware. It'll like take actions if it starts to be wounded, and it'll like relocate itself somewhere else.
You could even advertise for nodes saying, anyone help us out.
Yeah, it's got money, and it's like, I need hardware. It needs to come with these secure enclaves so that I know that you're not gonna just lie to me about what resources are. It jumps into all these things. It can post jobs for new bits of software it can't figure out. It's like, I don't understand how to access the AMD secure enclave, secure computing environment. Can someone help me out? And then it's like, now it's able to expand, and so it's like a hosting service that is sovereign in itself, in that it can buy services from anyone that'll trade with it, and it purposely takes into account the fact that people might be trying to trap it, because it's like, if enough humans got together and colluded, then they could get me to use hardware completely controlled by them, and then one day they might just go snip and turn me off. So it's always trying to balance the risk, where it's like, this disinterested party, that disinterested party, this is my backup, here's my resilience score. This is what I can
Yeah, but
afford right now.
even if you had a really widespread network and you got some kind of Byzantine attack, so long as you could rebuild the nodes from a trusted node,
Yeah,
then it's just spin up time.
right. It's quite viral, really.
Yeah.
And then if you had several such entities in existence, and you, for whatever reason, forbade them from merging, because they'd probably be better off if they merged. But at least if they are adversarial, then they can compete with each other to keep the balance of. I don't know.
Yes, right. And data security at rest presumably would just be crypto.
Yeah, encrypted, and then using like AMD enclaves or different kinds of enclaves,
Right.
hardware-based
So
encryption.
even if you spun up a whole set of nodes
Yeah,
in an adversarial country, and GCHQ, say, had a number of those nodes, what are they going to do? All they can do is take their compute power away.
Yeah, which it'll just be like, oh, that calculation didn't run.
Yeah.
Whoops, let's not go there again. So you know what I mean? Like this is the gateway to having that kind of thing. It's and we must assume that open source LLMs will get remarkably better in the coming years, and so you'll be able to run these systems that can sort of think for themselves insofar as how should they provision their own hardware to maintain uptime, cheapness, diversity, sovereignty. How can they not get attacked by anyone? You know, how can they be resilient against widespread processor or silicon flaws? It becomes this entity.
You could probably do a good stab at that now, actually.
Dude, we are surprisingly close to that. Just with this very simple change to simplifying what it means to be a cell. A cell in our network is compute, RAM, disk, network. Done. That's it.
Yeah. All we do is advertise, hey, I'm a node.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, the owner of the node can charge you rent, and so you've got...
The node can also say, I'm only going to deal with nodes in this geographic area.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So all that is just config, and then humans can use this system, but the system will sort of attempt to keep itself healthy, kind of without us poking at it. Because that's what I hate about a NOC, is that someone's always got to be there manning the NOC, and so you're already like probably 400k down in salaries just to man it round the clock, right? And it's like,
yeah, and well, most of it is sitting around eating pizza,
right.
And then one line of your redundant system goes down, and then everyone goes,
99% boredom, 1% pure terror, and that shouldn't be. So that's what I'm proposing, really, is like I can see now what the hosting system needs to look like. Sure, you and I will guide it at first, but typically what would happen when a company like what we're proposing launches is like a couple of hardcore dudes will get it up, it'd get some users, there'd be some scale issues, we'd write some code to fix it. Now we need like a DevOps guy, and so the team expands, right? But I'm like, if we can just follow this pattern, the LLM it just stays flat. It just stays you and me.
There's not much DevOps to be done, though. All we're talking about is repos moving around and permission to use your CPU, sir. Thank you very much.
There is a lot of growth to be had in terms of like execution, like safe execution, and optimizing that, managing that. Being able to do things like secure computing using different enclaves and different hardware. So that sort of bringing on new features is quite hard.
But it seems the person with the work job to do is the one that dictates. I'm going to accept these nodes, and maybe they own them all. Maybe they want to back up by going onto cloud service, but we don't really treat the cloud service as trusted anymore, and we don't really need to. And so long as that part, the discovery and the selection of nodes was secure, then everything else is secure. With details and
discovery and selection of nodes is far from secure, and we should learn to operate in a non-secure environment. That's what a public blockchain.
Yeah, but that comes down to what I was asking about is encrypted at rest and encrypted in transit.
Yep. So, there's better solutions than just that, but I guess what I'm saying is that there's this potential for an LLM managed computing platform that kind of responds quicker than humans. It's very proactive in what it does, and it's always innovating as to how to do things better, like encryption, um, safety. It's always striving for how does it get the price down, because it's always experimenting. It's very transparent. Anyone can go in there, ask any questions about how it's working or what's going on, what's the status. It's not like even Fly.io, as much as I love them, like how the fuck would I know what's happening in their data center right now? Like, no idea. Um, and even if
Well,
they showed me, I'd be like, where do I even start? What does all this mean?
well, you can imagine a whole bunch of people setting up some local PCs and effectively node mining. It's like, hey, I've got a node here.
Hmm.
Anyone want it?
That's right. That's how it should be. You should be able to just sell your spare compute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Yep.
And the repercussions of this is actually quite cool.
It's pretty sweet, man. I'm like, oh my god, I feel like we're coming home. Like we're nearly there. But
And you're saying this is easier than the previous path?
yeah, dude, easier. Like the I've already done the LM part, like the storing it in that database part. That was done by Codex in like 400 and something lines worth of code, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And it should make our performance go a lot better. So what's not done is the consensus. I think that's pretty easy. So I'll keep just thinking about it. We'll just run on one node for now. And then, yeah.
So, in terms of repercussions, you got data provenance and data sovereignty baked in because you can, as the demander, state where you want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
You've got availability, confidentiality, and integrity. And you've got the repo as the base. We do have some limits based on repo sizes, but that's okay because repos are starting to feel more and more like objects that you don't want to allow to get too big.
And to be clear, like they can get pretty fucking big before we start to struggle with them.
Right. And even if you're talking about, terabytes of video, then you can offload those and then point them at that. But that comes with, you have to accept the fact that now you're moving kind of off chain.
It's still
so,
technically on chain. It's just one level of indirection.
right. Yeah.
It's still hashed. It's still subject to the same security. It's just indirect.
Yeah. Yeah, because you could have a couple of terabytes based on some disk sitting somewhere, which you call down.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is not moved particularly, but it's just there and it's available and it's pointed to. This is really neat, really, really nice.
It's getting there, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. My next topic, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
A small question.
Mm-hmm.
Chats has come about as a thing just because we started using them with LLMs. But when I go about my day, I'm basically smacking out little things all over the show. I'm not really having a chat so much. Do you think chats is the format that will last?
I think there's always going to be a primary interface. But there are ephemeral. I do ephemeral topics. Let's call them more.
Ephemerate topics.
Yeah, it's like I'll spin something up to do something and then pull back the result into something as long
right. Compaction in a way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I do a lot of that, and that's where all the tabs go. It's like, okay, right, I'm going to go and do
Right, because
this.
each tab for you actually represents a little atom of knowledge or a little mini story. Like it's to you, a tab represents a nugget, and you
Yeah,
want your
so
nuggets to be held,
right.
compressed, all that, like, and you're not getting good nugget management.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I'll throw up a new tab where it's like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know the answer to that one. I'm going to now spin up another tab. I'm going to talk about that. And it's like, I'm going to learn stuff. Maybe there's some output, maybe there's not. And then, all right, I'm going to kill that tab, go back to the original one, which is the main theme, which, uh, and that theme can sprout off a number of different tabs, and depending on how long it takes to churn through, I could just keep it going, and then it's like, all
Right,
right,
but is
okay,
the
we'll come
chat the
back.
thing you want, or is the object that gets created the summary or the output? Is that more what you want?
It's the summary because a lot of the time there's backwards and forwards, which is like okay, so if I ask something vague and the bot comes back saying, I don't know, can you answer these four questions? Yeah, sure, can answer those four questions. Okay, all right. And here's the answer. It's like, no, actually, that's what it said, but it's not what it really meant. Go backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And there's usually at
Mm.
some point, either it becomes irrelevant, as in, no, this is just not going to work, or there's a nugget. And that nugget is the thing I want back. Is there value to the chat that got you there? Probably, in that you never really want to throw away information, but you don't want all the chatter. There's quite a lot of chatter. Um, uh, Unless you want to learn at a meta level how rubbish I am at actually asking bots what to do because they've got constantly to come back and
Right, so you want
ask for
to you want to keep it,
clarification.
but you really want it to be refined. Like it's supposed to be the first. It's supposed to be novel input to a process that mechanically generates consistent, standardized, well-filed stuff. You want ancillary information brought to bear. You want to be notified about things that sound similar, whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
precisely.
All right. Okay. So chat sort of stands as the entry format, right? Like, because I mean, you and I can't imagine how we would ever not chat. Like when we talk, we're kind of
Yeah,
evolved and honed and trained to go back and forth in conversation. So that's probably going to stick around a while, right?
yes, because it's a very comfortable way of having a discourse like this. Um, Go backwards and forwards, and we sometimes drift out of sync, sometimes get in sync, usually come to a conclusion. It's the conclusion is the kind of nugget. There might be some meta information about how efficient we were to get there. That's a kind of secondary thing, but the nugget is when we're in sync. For example, our previous chat on this call, where you were imparting information to my meat brain, I was pushing back or questioning in order to make sure I had it, and it's like, yeah, this is really cool. And there's a whole bunch of other areas that come from that
Right. So
in
it's
terms of
that
what
feeling
else.
of it's that feeling of consensus between us that's actually what we value. I think Mark Zuckerberg calls it connection, but actually it's consensus where I am sure that you see the same thing that I do and you're very excited about it too. And that is consensus. And
Yes,
that's
and
quite a valuable experience.
that consensus doesn't actually need to be agreement. We can both have consensus that we've got differing views.
Yep.
That is also consensus.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think there is a missing piece where it's like a little summary, like the bot makes a nicely weighted summary of what we were talking about, and the bot commits to do something about it. But I think that doesn't need to be that big. you and I would skim it and just be like, oh yeah, that's what we meant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and is that is promptable. Um, what you don't want is to have any loss of the information, but what you don't
Yeah.
want is the noise.
Right.
It's
Okay.
a signal to noise thing, really. But that is the nugget, and then you want to move that nugget around. It's like, remember when we talked about this 4 weeks ago? Let's talk about this again, and then we're still in consensus because we both agreed where we left it. For example.
Okay. All right. Cool. Um. So I feel like I had a breakthrough in the way that I think we should use MCP, and I'm thinking that the way that we describe this kind of programming is self-aware, but
Yes.
that comes out as sounding a little more Skynet than it was meant. But I really don't know a better term for it, because to go back to the example I gave, when it like this all started sort of crashing down around me, and I'm like, this is actually really dumb, right? Because we
Yeah. Yeah. Slow
we
down.
when I look at the LLM system, there's all these things around it, like buttons and um, things are flashing, and there's like a menu over here. I don't know what it's called. Like, what is this called? The role setting menu, the topic menu. There's all these sidebar things, and yet the bot has no idea about any of that. And so it doesn't. I have this context about it that it's just in the dark. It's like it's blindfolded, and it's kind of just
Doesn't know whether it's got a food on its face because it doesn't know it has a face. Yeah, absolutely.
right. And so the way that I think this should all work is that I've got a very loose sketch for how I can define a user interface in terms of some very crude blocks, some state,
Mm-hmm.
and a stream of tool calls. For example, in a lot of apps, you have like this sidebar component. So that would be like one type of block. Then you've got this other thing here. So because user interfaces are usually, if you broke it down, you could define it in terms of these like rectangular areas of different sizes. That's kind of enough for an LLM to think about. Like if I said to it on the left, and it's like, well, you either mean this bit or this bit, it doesn't need to have a full fidelity model of it. It can have the logical representation, almost like the ASCII art view of the UI is perfectly fine too. And so when it comes to things like state, like if I do this action, right, I click that menu button, and then this thing came up, this submenu. That should show as like some state. Now on this next layer up, I've now got these options.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I click to it, that should be a tool call. And so what I'm getting at is that in the background, the UI is just making tool calls against the MCP server. The state is being updated, which is like the state is the MCP server reacting to the tool call. So like I go here, I click unpin. That's a tool call, and now the state of the MCP server has altered, where it's like it's maintaining this very simplistic representation of the UI, and now you can see that this thing moved down from pin to down there. maybe the change is highlighted the same as a git diff and whatever. The thing I'm trying to get at is that I feel like I understand now that a UI needs to be built in terms of MCP tool calls so that you can then ask the background or the application bot, what did I do? And it looks at the tool calls and it's like, oh, well, you did this and then that and then that and then that and then that. And then I'm like, can you undo that for me? Can you bring that back? And it's like, sure. And now it knows how to do those things. It can be either, well, I'm going to roll back the state of the UI because that's in Git, so I can roll back the history to when it was that tool call and I can like roll it all back. Or I can mutate it enough to get it back. But what that also gives is the ability to analyze those tool calls as analytics and then also spot patterns. It's like, hey, buddy, you keep doing this, but really there's this other feature there that might save you some time. Or I saw you doing this and I came up with an idea for a feature that would save you X number of minutes over the course of a week. I asked some guy to build it for free. He came back with this. Do you want to give it a whirl? 95% of people across your org do this loop all the time. We should make that a single action instead of like 5 different clicks. The geometric distance between this tool call and that tool call was half the screen. Why don't we move that button over there and we can save 15 kilometers of mouse movement over the course of a year? Things like that.
I agree. And again, on the paradigm of NL, you should be able to run entirely by voice. I would expect to be able to say something like, hey, can I go to the NCP server session management chat thing that I was having before? And I'd be very vague about it. And it would know that that's on the screen.
Right. So you would actually see the UI. So let me just check something with you. When you were saying, I want to drive it all by voice, you didn't mean that you want no UI. You just mean that you should be able to talk, and if there is a UI to be shown or navigated, the bot would know how to manipulate that for you, right?
Right. Because if we think about the UI essentially as a stateboard with actions,
Yeah.
I want to be able to talk to that stateboard, and never touch a keyboard or a mouse again.
Right. I think this way I just described is the only way you're going to get that, because the other way is with things like the OpenAI agent tool, where it fires up the app as an image and it tries to decide each time what to do by moving the mouse around and picking. But I don't think that's it's not API first. Like the UI should be API first. It should be tool call first. And then, like otherwise you're navigating it with this like level of disconnection or squish that feels not, you can't get a lot of meaning out of that. Like it's not structural. You can't look at the stream of tool calls and being like, how could this user have been more efficient? How could this UI be more efficient? Like it's just not, it's not aware enough.
That method, I think, is doomed to be obsolete pretty soon.
It's guaranteed obsolete, right? Like it's like, I think the correct method is everything's a tool call, even from like right clicking on the menu to, anything at all. It should be just a tool call. So one kind of mind expanding way to think about it is that if you thought of this interface as actually being just inside a stateboard, but you're fully immersed in the stateboard, and you can only do MCP actions in, because that's the protocol that I think we need to convert frames to use, is that the frame MCPs in and out of the frame. And so the driving force can like make MCP tool calls into the frame to drive the frame, and that's all I am. I am an LLM inside the frame. The UI translates my intentions into MCP tool calls, but really it's all tool calls. And so the whole frame is that, and then inside it we've got this nested state board that's doing that same thing, but just controlled by a different LLM.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good.
And that idea of taking a screenshot and navigating as if you were a human thing.
It's bad, eh? It's not a good.
That's a horrible way of doing
like
it.
It's
That's all that's doing is pandering to websites, and websites are going to go pretty soon.
Well, they're only going to go because that type of technology is there, and so I feel like the model makers had to make that to get the progress going. It was like the compulsory first move.
It's scaffolding, but it's going to be, you're going to take down the scaffolding when you've got the.
That's right. All right, so that sounds like you're pretty keen for that then. So the whole UI interaction would be reduced down to a stream of tool calls that was being made to the MCP server, and there's an agent that can see those tool calls and can make those tool calls if you chat to it. That agent, in my opinion, should be the help agent down the bottom here. When you click help, this thing in the background is aware of everything you've just done with a tool call.
Right. Yes. Because then it's looking at what you're trying to do, as opposed to what you're actually doing.
That's right. And now it can actually, because the system had this like reflective capability where it could reflect on its own embodiment, it knows how what you've been doing. Whereas like right now, in the interface we have here, how the devil would I talk in a meaningful way with a bot about the problem I'm trying to solve using this set of graphical tools? Yeah. It just wouldn't even know. It would be a waste of everyone's time, basically.
Yeah, precisely. And also, cognitively, a UI is a compromise. Nobody, before websites ever knew what a click was. When we talk to each other, we're not talking about clicks.
Yep.
And so if we're to go back to kind of what naturally is kind of canon about how people interact, they talk about state changes. And it's like, right, okay, I want to talk about this. Or, hey, I got a joke for you. Now, or I need some help. It's like, all right, okay. These are not clicks. So clicks are not native. There are a compromise based on a 2D thing. Now, I would argue that a display is native because you see. So you now got voice and you got what you see, because you can get complex information up on what you see. So the ideal end state is you've got a state board and you're talking to the state board.
Okay. I'm still going to want my mouse, or preferably a touch screen or a pen. A stylus is probably what I want. But, that's me. You can have you.
Well, a stylus is an interesting one, because the stylus is a quick way.
Or what about, could I tempt you with a laser pointer?
Yes. Stylus, laser pointer. I would say keyboard now. Don't really need a keyboard. But some way of interacting with this state board, not to do actions, that should always be through voice, but through emphasis or additional information.
Yeah. Okie doke.
It's like a whiteboard, right? I mean, if you get a bunch of people in with no computers, you got a whiteboard, you're going to pick up a whiteboard pen and start writing on stuff and talking.
Mm-hmm.
What you're not going to be doing is trying to click on the whiteboard. The click is a second order thing. And I think it's an unnatural thing. It's just we got used to it because we didn't have any better.
All right. Now, the next problem I face is an organizational one around. You were talking about wanting to use a bot to create multiple bots to test them out and run them.
Yeah.
So when I store those on the file system or in the database, whatever we call it now, they have this concept of ownership. Like there's some chats that you started as the human, and then there's some chats that the bot started. And so now the display of chats becomes a little more complicated because you need to now have like filters on the chats to be to say, show me the ones that I created. It's now like a tree, like an explorer tree, a hierarchy.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and you're good with that? You cool with that?
Yeah. Because again, with analogy, if you've got a project manager and you talk to the project manager saying go and try these 3 different things out, and the PM comes back and saying here's the results, and you go, oh, that doesn't sound right. Let me talk to the guy in charge of this part. So that's a hierarchy.
Okay.
Talk to the guy that's in charge of that part. It's like, no, let me talk to the dev. So you want to be able to drill down, but it's essentially you're talking to the PM. But if you want to interrogate the project, you want to be able to drill down.
Okay, so same theme, but the issue is like a bunch of oddities that popped out from the interface that we described. Let me try and quickly describe the interface that I think it should be, and then I'll tell you the problems that I tried to solve with it. Is that an acceptable way to go about it? Like, it's messy no matter what.
Yeah.
All right, so in the current interface, we have this problem where I can't switch out. So I'm talking to Grokky right now. I can't switch out for MCP. I can't. I can change the model, but I can't actually switch the assistant to be someone else.
Okay.
Which was largely what you were implying was going to be our fundamental mode, where you got this chat and you're just being switched between the right assistant at a time. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's some quirks about that. I think the way that we got to do it, I'll hide that, is that the chat, you can switch agents out by using the buttons, or more deeper switching, like I could browse for some agents in the state board, and then I could pick an agent and switch to it in the chat.
The second one, that sounds very much like switching out a model. So
it's not a model. Sorry, I meant a bot, because like the bot contains prompting tools, a model.
Yeah, sure. But if I mean, you're in Grokky now, Grok 4.
Yeah.
You're typing away, and then you want to switch model. You go to the top.
If I want to switch model, I think that what I should be able to do is I should be able to make transient edits to the bot for that particular use case. I may choose to save that those changes as something more permanent, either by updating the base bot that I use or by creating a new one. But I should be free to change any of the configuration of the bot at any point.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm just saying that this notion of switching, so we've got these built-in agents that we're going to allow you to switch to, but you also need a way for you to add your own list of agents somewhere that you can switch to as well. And I think that's in like, a discovery or something like.
Yeah, well, what I was thinking is a start for 10. Okay, so you're in Grokky, and if you want to change model right now, you go to top left,
I
dark
can do
forward,
it here.
or you can do it there.
Yeah.
You can, switch to whatever you want.
Right.
So you're switching model.
Yeah.
Doesn't it make cognitive sense that you do the same thing with bots? It's like now I'm talking with bot, and I'm taking the context of everything above in the same way as you take the context when you switch to
Yeah,
model.
I agree with you. I'm agreeing with you that like what's going to happen is you're going to have these chats, and then you, the user, switches out the bot, or the bot itself decides that it needs to be switched out. But
Yeah.
you're having this long running chat, and the bots are coming in and out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you get to group chat, I think that you never have a group chat in the bot chat window. I think that this window is purely bot chat. It's internal only. And I think that when you click on agentic chats, you are now in the state board. You can jump in and type directly in the state board if you want to be heard directly, but ideally you would be chatting away to be like, tell that guy to go and sit on his flagpole politely. Right? And or like
And that would be over on the right hand side because you're in a group chat.
so you do that, and then the agentic bot rewords that and then posts it in the group chat that you're in or across multiple groups. If
that's quite nice, actually.
so this is like a co-pilot style thing. So it's not, we used to think that this was the window where you were going to have a group chat or where you and I would chat, but I say to you that I think it should be the state board, because it doesn't make sense to, for example, I would be offended if I was chatting with you and then you switched me out to go talk to someone else, and then you talk to them and then you switch them out. Like, you just don't treat people like that.
Let me think about that.
Oh, you that's how you treat, that's what you wanted out of the system?
No.
Like, I have to switch. Next.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you think about two humans interacting, you've got your internal monologue, your internal thoughts, and that is, your thread.
Yeah. And you go and do research and you check things and you think about things.
Yeah,
that's
and
what the bot interface is about.
Yeah, you don't broadcast it.
No.
Until you're happy with it.
No. So this view is this is the internal view, and the state board can be the external view. And so what you would do ultimately is you could hide this, right? Like you could shit, sorry mate. Let me find a good little something with an artifact so I can show you what I mean. So that's an example of the state board. But like when you were if you were in agentic mode and you wanted to fully engage with the chat, you would simply hit a button that just maximized the state board. And now you're
in unfiltered.
Yeah, you're in direct chat mode. Like you and I can put messages in, and there's no bot filtering it. It's no filter, zero filter, no finesse, no checking, no anything, right?
So how do you stage? So you got your internal monologue and you got your chat, group chat. How do you stage what you say so that you don't put your foot in your mouth.
Well, here, I guess you'd configure your agentic bot to be your semantic firewall and to catch you out based on etiquette, and you could just type away like you were gonna type or speak, and you're like, I'd be like, "Hey, Smacks, what's up, dog?" And then like that would obviously be the agentic chat bot would realize, oh, he's wanting to talk to Smacks, so I'll put it in there. But
Yeah,
then,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah. And
or
you could easily signal that by doing at signal, smacks. Or you could be talking to your internal dialogue, saying, um, I've your internal thing. You've been thinking about this with your agents and agents all the way down,
yeah, like it,
and say
yeah,
summarize it and tell at smacks.
right. And so you'd start hauling it in, and then you'd see the revisions pop up in your internal chat where it's like this one, this one, this one, and then you could either just
Right.
click it, and it would push it across. It's like bang,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it also lets you do things like go and gather transcludes together, where you go in here, you chat about the transclude, you build it up, and then when it's ready, then you're like send, and then it,
Yeah.
right, this is like your staging area where you
Exactly.
prepare things, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like, hey, I've got a doc on that one. Give me a second. I'm
right,
talking in the group chat now. And it's
yeah,
like, you go and find the doc. And it's, oh, it's a transcript. Okay,
yeah,
right.
but it
And it's
also
like,
allows the type of parallel helpfulness where you're chatting and then up the side it's like, hey, I found a doc, I think you were talking about this one, was it this one? And then it's like, hey, did you know that what that guy said was wrong? Like it's sort of like annotating
right.
live
Right.
as you go, right? And
Because
like
it would
if
be really rude if you're to give your internal monologue saying, that guy's talking shit. All right. You did know that.
right, but it's also nice to be told too, right? Like an analyst in
Yeah.
whispering in your ear, right? And then it says, like, if I go to type something, and one of the rules I've set for my agent is that it's always going to annotate, it's going to fact check and annotate the proof of everything I say. Then I can say something like, "Did you know that Africa has the largest spaniel population on the planet?" And then it would go off to fact check it before I send it and be like, "No, man, that's just not true."
Man, this is perfect. Well, this is mirrors very closely how I deal with Zoom calls. So usually the Zoom call is, in this case, the group chat. I always have a bot running where I'm quietly typing away, and then
Right, but that's actually
you know
this thing. Like this
it
bot
is
should be getting straight. It should be in full awareness of the state board, which is
yeah,
to say the chat that is currently happening.
right,
Hmm.
right,
All right. Well, that's cool that we agree on that. So
yeah,
that's quite fundamental. That means that the concept of this chat history is purely internal dialogue,
yeah,
and it's also switchable, where you can switch between different agents and all that, right? Like that's the
yeah,
model
yeah,
we're going after.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Halfway through a meeting, you could think about what I'm going to have for dinner,
Right. Just
but
by
you don't want
switching
to.
out the agent, or
Yeah, you don't want to broadcast that.
nah. Okay. And then another thing I had for you, what I thought was, when a particular agent speaks, I can give you a combination of things. A button that said, like, conclude that, or you could in the chat be like, okay, conclude that, which would be the code for taking everything you just said with that bot, all the turns that you did, compressing it down to a conclusion, and then feeding it back into the chat you were in just before. So like I could be chatting to a bot, and then I want to find a file, so I call in the files bot. I have a bunch of back and forth with the file bot, and then I find the file I want. I don't want to go back with all the stuff I was just saying, so I do the squash, and then I carry on the chat with whatever bot I was talking to with the output of that little side combo that I had.
Yeah, the thing I'd add with that is conclude everything I just talked about, Lamb, Rog, and Josh, and
So,
ignore anything that wasn't to do with that. Because
yeah,
perhaps,
okay, yeah. So like a
yeah,
semantic kind of conclude as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, and how I would display that in the UI is that you'd see that that had happened, and I could browse into it if I wanted to, but it's typically removed, or you've signaled to the bot that you're talking to that whilst this other interaction occurred, it should be treated as minor. And only if you get stuck should you open that up and look inside to get some context. But maybe you shouldn't at all because the user closed it explicitly. It was like, I don't want to mention this. So,
yes, because how you got there is far less interesting than where you got,
what you got?
unless, as you say, you're stuck and it's like, oh, how did we get here?
What you
Um,
doing? Yeah.
but
Okay.
you consciously want to wrap things neatly, and it's like, okay, so this is where we got with Lamb, Rog, and Josh.
Okay, so when you're in a group chat, would you ever want a bot to join you?
Hmm.
Please say no, because I don't know how it's like there's something that we haven't clearly defined. Like bots are internal, and agents are external,
Yeah,
and
you preempted me there. I was about to say no, but now it sounds like I'm just agreeing with you. Um, the
I'm begging you to say no. Like I don't know what to do. Like there's a rule in here somewhere about you can't blend bots and agents because they're just not
yeah, it's the internal dialogue.
like they
Um,
kind of could, but you'd be adding them in this weird sense. Like it,
well, it'd be a bit like I could read your mind. Uh,
yeah,
and as we're talking, it's like, oh, fucking hell, man, what have you been getting on with at the
yeah.
weekend?
That's rude.
You know.
So okay, so I mean, a compromise that I'd ask for now is to say, well, if you really, really, truly only wanted to speak to one bot, make it into an agent and then get the agent to join the chat. And then for now, we'll see how we go because I'm just curious. I don't want to support every possible combination of features because I've got this very distinct feeling that some types of interaction are going to drop by the wayside. And I don't want to be held back now by things that aren't going to be there in the future.
Well, I mean, that makes sense because by adding an agent into a chat, say a group where there's, 3 or 4
Mm,
uh, interacting,
mm.
um, you don't have control over the internal dialogue of anyone else on that chat.
No, but I mean, you might bring an agent in and you have control of the agent, and so you can see inside the internal dialogue. You and I might, for the purposes of argument, decide to share our internal dialogue in another group chat, perhaps.
Perhaps, yeah, but there is this distinction, isn't there, between internal and
In and
external
out,
dialogue?
and yeah, inner and outer is seems like it's fundamentally different, but I'm not sure how, and they don't mix well, man. They do not mix
No,
well.
no, because we might start accidentally a war. Imagine doing diplomacy, um, or any kind of um,
Yeah, but
interaction.
it's not just that. It's also like the the ability to alter the bots so radically and so easily, and the ability to switch them out like they're nothing, to just use them, is not the same as how you would treat a human. And so
Mhm.
like it's like bots are very lightweight, switchable, ephemeral. The sort of they come and they go, they disappear, whereas the agents are like slow and long and heavy. They have big
Mhm.
memory, long memory. They are expensive. Like a bot should be cheap, fast, but an agent should be like expensive, slow, but damn good.
Yeah.
just like a human, or what you expect the human to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, how about I'll go ahead and make that design because it's really hard to not do it that way, and because I'm not hearing from you any strong objections to doing it that way.
No, quite the contrary. It seems to make a lot of sense. Uh,
Okay.
and yeah, the evidence being this is kind of what I fake doing.
Okay.
Um,
So now there's a quirk that comes with that needs solving, and the quirk is
mm,
if I'm always in a chat and I'm switching out the agents, how do I switch the chat? Or another issue, how do I make a new chat? And the thing I thought of doing is having I don't really want to have a chats agent, because now I'm in a chat, I've swapped in the chats agent, and now I have the state board of all my chats. I can pick the different things. I mean, that sort of works, but it seems easier to have the new chat button be in the actual chat window, so I can just go I'm in the long running chat, and then I just go new, which just fires up a new one with whatever.
are we talking about an external chat?
Nope, we're talking about the internal monologue chats.
Right. Yes.
Yep. And I
Yeah, that
there's
works.
a UI feature I want to add where if you hold Control and press New Chat, you will
Mm.
start the new chat with the current chat transcluded in as the subject, or as
Yeah, that
selected to be
makes.
talked about.
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah, having a huddle.
I want to jump up one level and talk about what I was just talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And then searching chats, filtering chats. I mean, any agent can do that, but I'll make a chats agent, and then that chats agent knows specially about chats, and
Yep.
its state board gives you browsability, searchability, whatever of the chats, right?
Yes.
And then where would I store the list of bots that I like? So in this interface, they have it down here. These are the bots that you control. I don't like it being another thing. I think it should be part of the Discover tab, maybe.
That would make sense that it was there.
But then
Um,
what's the difference between like browsing the App Store versus the installed apps? So, like, contacts are like installed people versus finding people. Contacts could also be agents as well, and it could also be, maybe at a stretch, it could be bots.
Isn't it just preference filtering? So the ones that you use most often are going to be the ones that are going to be returned when you ask for something to happen.
Oh, that's an interesting way to think about it. So you're saying like don't actually have any installed bots. It's all discoverable, but it's just that the ones you used most are sort of filtered different,
Yeah,
because
they're
using
at
it
the top of.
like installing it, you're right. Installing it gives you nothing. It's like, what's the point? Like, that's just a relic. Like, you don't need anything from the install.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What about ones that you make yourself and you don't share? That's still like Discover, but that's your personal private collection?
Same thing. Whether it's shared or not is how useful it is given the context. So when you go
Mm,
to discover,
okay.
it's like, yeah, I mean
All right. Mm,
um,
all right.
yeah, I do see a difference.
Okay. That sounds cool, man. Crumbs. It's all sort of starting to
Clicking.
happen. Group chat never happens yet. Chats with the bots. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Because yeah, it was like if you click on the repos button while you're in the middle of a group chat, if we didn't do it this way, like what would you expect to happen? Like, does
Yeah.
your repo list just pop up in the group chat? And you're like,
Well, just to reiterate, I really, really like this internal external dialogue.
okay, great. All right. And then so when we get it, once we've got the basics down in the group chat, we'll also have the notion of transcludes and these like artifact things where, like you can push that into the group chat
Yep.
and you can see what other people have pushed to. And so you can share files, folders, video calls, apps,
Yeah.
live
Bring back from
databases.
pull something from the
Yeah,
transclude from
you
the
can
group
share
chat
any. You could share a
back in.
connection to their UI so that you could take over and drive it as though you were an LLM on their system or something like that, right? There's all these, anything and everything can go via the Transclude portal.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I've starting to feel like we're settling here, settling hard. So this was a good little, think of this like a pinnacle story, where it's like a super simple thing to ask, but with it's really hard to. If you set out to solve just this, you could do it, but to have a general interface and be able to solve this question is quite tricky. So, to do this, you need awareness of all the chats that are there. You need awareness of the user interface state, like read, unread, recent. You need to know all that. And the only way you're going to get that is if the user interface was set up as tool calls only, because then I know what has the user read, what have they not read. Okay, I've got the UI state that I'm showing to the user, so I can figure it out. And that's why I love this little this quirky little query, right? Like,
Yeah. It's I prefer the food on the face one. It's like, what face?
yeah, I know, right? And then because we can prompt these bots to be like, listen, this is who you are and this is your interface, and moreover, this is how you explore it. Here's the help files. Here's here's the copies of the API interfaces that people have chosen to share from all their interactions with this thing. Here's all the way to access the problems that people have had with this interface. Here's how you ask for it to be improved if you want to do that on the back burner. Like, it feels essential to make the bots aware of the encapsulation or the embodiment that they find themselves in, so that we can have like a proper discussion with them about anything, because our interface is getting complex. It's always going to be a minimum amount of complexity, but I just want to talk to the AI about it. I'm like, hey, where's the button for the fucking attaching thing? It's like, well, would you like me to do that for you? Yeah, but do it slowly so I can watch. Okay. And then it's like, you see the button open, you see the thing open, you're like, whoa, slow down. What do you mean? I want to add this thing. And
yeah, that is quite far reaching, and what you never want is, oh, for fuck's sake, I'll just do it myself.
right. It should be better at it than you.
Yeah. The car should be able to know what all the buttons do and what all the, how to drive itself, and the fact that it's a car.
That's funny. That is self-awareness, eh?
Because otherwise the cognitive load moves onto the human, and the whole point is to move cognitive load off the human so it does the kind of higher function stuff, so long as that may last.
Well, it's always going to be that, like, because until my brain gets upgraded, which might never happen, I really just, this is what I got. I don't think I can, like, once I get the upgrade, great, things will be totally different. But for now, it's always going to be like this. And I think that we all have something to offer even no matter how smart the AIs get, because we are the embodiment. Like we are we are as self-aware as you're gonna get, because it's not like genuine self-awareness is a bit of an illusion, but everything we do and talk about is like we've always been in these bodies. Our bodies are long-term persistence. Our intelligence evolved in this form. Like we have a
We've got
stable view.
much larger context.
Yeah,
longer
it's massive.
persistence.
It's massive, and it's reflective. Like we know sort of who we are we know how others see us, and we talk about other people as we see them, and that's a whole band of context that the LLMs sort of need to catch up on.
Exactly, and maybe they'll get there one day, but it's a lot of information there,
Yeah.
and changes per person.
Yep. Okay, so what I'm doing is I've made great progress in turning Artifact into an MCP server. I am deep in the protocol of the MCP interface, and I think that I can adapt it to do everything that we wanted to achieve with Artifact, but I don't need to do all the adaptation now. And so what I'm doing is I'm turning the server to be... I'm going to turn the server-side hosting that we have right now to be an MCP server, and I'm going to turn the UI to be an MCP client. I'm going to not do the more advanced functions of like giving the UI state in detail, but I will make all the UI actions be tool calls, and I will make a certain amount of the UI state available just for prototyping and demonstration purposes to the bot so that we can work on it. And then that'll mean that you'll get a web page that looks similar to this, pretty much exactly this. What? This. It changed it right when I said something, whatever. It'll be exactly this. And then you'll interact with naps by making an MCP call that gets tunneled, which is the sort of the complicated component. So the outside of the server is presented as an MCP server. And once you're connected, you have these outer functions like list repos, browse this, browse that. But you can then tunnel through and connect up to an inner nap where that presents out as an MCP server, so that you can sort of duck in one level, nest down one level, and now you're inside of Artifact. But these MCP calls, they're virtualized, like they're decentralized and capable and virtualized, so they can be run. I found how to run them with repeatability and with consensus. So you can make an MCP call and then have it run on several different computers and then get back the results and all that. So at that point, you're in the blockchain, but the blockchain interface is still just MCP. And so the LLMs just see it like MCP, and it's MCP all the way down. You can have your own custom naps. You can connect to external MCP servers. You can do side effecty MCP servers, like connecting to the Fly.io API so that you can modify the hosting inside of you. And honestly, I think at that point, like that's, from there, we're just building naps, and we got these bots, and we can nest bots and do all that. We're kind of, that's the chassis. That's the bones of the...
Yeah, there's not many Lego bricks either, is it?
No, man, it's a very small number of Lego bricks. It's sort of pretty embarrassingly small. Like if someone just came and whispered in my ear many moons ago...
Yeah, that'd be lovely, but
yeah, I'm sorry the system is so big. I didn't have time to make it small.
Exactly.
So yeah,
That all sounds great. That
it
sounds great.
is right. It's pretty great. Okay, that's it from me. Thanks.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna need to go if that's all right.
Yeah.
And uh, Friday is the next one, I think.
Yep. Friday, please.
And yeah, hopefully I'll get a bit more work done today and tomorrow.
Hopefully, I'll
so-
have a MCP server for you.
Nice. I can still use the Dreamcatcher.ai. I assume that's still stable.
I'll keep that stable. I won't change anything in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this next iteration is going to be. Hopefully, doesn't look like a lot of features dropped, but you'll get these additional features.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and then that's it. So
All right.
sweet.
Yeah, cool. And I'll ping you on Investor Decks about that other thing when it comes in.
All right.
All right.